Interview. Andrew, good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Lay your case against Attorney Gardner and why you're trying to have her removed from office.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, this is about the rule of law and finding justice for victims. And at this point in time, the circuit attorney has willfully neglected her legal obligations in office and has done so to the extent that it's actually a violation of law. And she's done that in three different ways. Number one, she has failed to prosecute pending cases. And those cases are languishing on the docket and eventually being dismissed. Secondly, she has failed to confer and inform victims of the procedural posture of cases that they were a victim in, and also failed to notify them of the ultimate disposition of those cases. And third, she has failed to file new charges brought to her by the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department. This is an abdication of authority. This is an illegal attempt to illegally, willfully neglecting her legal obligations and her moral obligations. And so for us, it's about restoring law and order to the people of the city of St. Louis.
General, what is the process that you will go through in your effort to remove her from office? Talk about that.
Well, yesterday evening, we gave her until noon today to do the right thing and resign, to step aside so that we could restore law and order and protect the people of the city of St. Louis. And she declined to do so. So at 12:01, I filed a writ of quo warranto. That is a legal mechanism. It's a procedure under Missouri law and guided by Missouri Supreme Court rule and case law that removes an elected official from office. Essentially, it's the state's check and balance on this very kind of behavior, because at the end of the day, the General Assembly, the people's elected representatives, have spoken and provided a mechanism, a safety valve, a check and balance to prevent this kind of abdication of authority, this kind of illegal, willful neglect of one's duties.
So Kim Gardner dismissed your call for her to resign earlier today. Take a listen to this.
The Attorney General, as others, used this unfortunate incident and tragic happening to this young lady as a political stunt of an unelected individual who wants to use politics to, one, stop the voice of the people in the city of St. Louis. Right. This is nothing more than voter suppression, which we've seen on a national level as well as in the state of Missouri.
How do you respond to her?
Politics doesn't enter into this at all. And instead of protecting victims, she's creating more victims by her illegal refusal to do her job. And if she won't do her job, then my legal obligation is to hold her accountable, and that's precisely what we're going to do.
When do you expect a ruling from the judge or the initial filing in front of the court?
Well, our pleadings have been filed. We're waiting for a judge to be assigned, and we anticipate that that will happen hopefully tomorrow. And as soon as we can get a date from the judge, we intend to go to the judge and file a proposed order for immediate removal. We anticipate getting a hearing, and we believe that there's ample evidence to demonstrate that the circuit attorney is willfully neglecting her duties and is doing so illegally at this point. And so the right thing to do here is to restore law and order, restore the rule of law to the city of St. Louis, and find justice for these victims who continue to suffer.
So, Andrew, when I was a DA for 10 years in Wisconsin, and we had very clear laws on how we treat victims, and to your point, what information we give them as the case is pending, the disposition of a case, we inform them. Do you have specific laws in Missouri as well that she's actually breaching? And by the way, there's no greater force coming down on a DA than victims who don't at least inform them of disposition of cases.
You're absolutely right. Look, I come from a prosecutor's office. I've dedicated my professional career to criminal prosecution, so I've had to make those tough decisions. But let me say this. Prosecutorial discretion is about weighing the evidence presented within the four corners of a police report to determine if there's sufficient evidence to file a charge, what the appropriate charge is, and ultimately what the disposition in the case should be. Prosecutorial discretion is not about willful neglect to enforce the laws as written. And so there are absolutely statutes on the books, and victims in the state of Missouri have constitutional rights as well. She's violating those by her illegal, willful neglect of her obligations, both legal and moral, I would point out.
But is the why now, General, because of what happened to Janae Edmondson? Is the why now because the people of St. Louis are angry enough to get behind this effort, behind your effort? Because how long has this been going on? How long have the victims been overlooked by this circuit attorney?
Well, Yes, the victims have been overlooked for too long. This is just the most recent example. This isn't about one case, but that singular case is an absolute tragedy, and my thoughts and prayers go out to the victim in that case. But this is about several cases, and what we have is a continuous pattern of behavior of a failure to inform victims of the disposition of their cases and the hearing dates for their cases. It's a neglect of the victims, and it's creating more victims, and somebody's got to put a stop to it. And that's my legal authority, and that's my legal obligation. And so we're going to hold Circuit Attorney Kim Gardner accountable, and we're going to put a stop to it to protect victims.
Andrew Bailey, thank you for joining us. Good luck.